Feminist disability studies, an overview is the topic that I thought of discussing with you all today. Good morning to all. And with a note of gratitude for calling me to be one of the resource person of your online lectures, I would like to get started. A special thanks to the department head, Dr. and Professor Selvin, sir. And in addition to that, convener of the program, Subhashini, Dr. Subhashini, who called me, and Dr. Vanilla Nancy, who was coordinating with me. So with the note of thanks to all the English department faculty of STC, I would like to get started with today's lecture. So feminist disability studies, an overview is the topic which we are going to discuss today. So this study started, dates back to 1960s actually. So when Kim Q Hall, whom you see on the screen, I think my screen is completely visible to you without getting the video shared. I mean, the small video box is being shared. That is on my screen now. I don't know whether that is also getting shared to you. This Kim Q Hall, let me take a laser tool. This Kim Q Hall actually, Madam Kim Q Hall published a book, edited a book, which was comprising a lot of articles on feminist disability studies written by several scholars like Elizabeth Barnes, Rosemary, and several peoples, and she edited and published it under the title Feminist Disability Studies. Okay, so this book created mass of arguments, no? So it raked up a lot of arguments in the field of feminist disability studies. As Professor Selvin sir rightly pointed out, feminist disability studies is a crucial point of discussion because they are the female who are disabled are thrice removed from the society actually. They are ostracized, one because of their marginalization happening because of their disability. Another thing, because they are being a female, they are ostracized already, they are marginalized. And in addition to that, their economic deprivation. So they are poor, and they are poor. When a poor person, when a poor girl child is disabled totally, and she does not have anybody to look after her, or a caretaker or a parent is not ready to look after her, in that case, what kind of a suffering the girl child would undergo? So thinking about these perspectives, the feminist disability scholars started writing on their sides. There have been several measurement and parameters taken to curtail these kinds of difficulties in the form of in the medical side and other things called GAT. I don't know how many of you have heard of GAT. GAT is GAT, GAT I refer to. Growth attenuation treatment. Growth attenuation treatment started with Ashley actually. So we discuss about Ashley's treatment. Before discussing about Ashley's treatment, I would like to throw a few light upon Elizabeth Barnes, The Minority Body, A Theory of Disability. This was published by Professor Elizabeth Barnes and Kim Q Hall. These people are pioneers in the field for raising their voice for feminist disability studies. So the content of today's lecture is an introduction, and we get to know about the pillow angels. Who are the pillow angels, and why do we call them pillow angels? And what is disability studies, or who are the disability writers, and feminist disability movies, and what they have, what kind of a message these movies convey to us, and the consolidation of the entire lecture. And let us get into task introduction. Disability, I see disability of two types. One is congenital and acquired. By birth, the female child has a kind of a defect or a disorder or a deformity, and it is totally immobile on bed, or it depends upon the degree. So some people will be physically 15% disabled, 20% disabled, totally disabled. So it depends. It varies from person to person and a child to child. So here it is either by birth or congenital or acquired in due course of time or as they keep growing. So acquired, for example, congenital mental retardation, defective birth, and biological disorders the child had inherited in its physique. So all these things can be classified under and so on. So you can classify them under congenital type. And acquired type, we speak about Alzheimer's today, and multiple sclerosis and schizophrenia, bipolar disorders. So many we speak about today. In due course of time, people develop a lot of psychological and physiological problems. So disability identification, we can sometimes see the disability, it will be visible. The cripple will be visible. So what kind of a crippled nature, what kind of a lame nature will be visible? For example, in case of blindness or crippled, we will easily be able to see. Hope I'm audible. Should I stop? Hello? Hello? Should I continue?
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, you can continue, ma'am.
Yes, there are several mics that are unmute. So I thought you were about to tell me something. That's why I stopped. Okay. So disability identification we see as visible disability identification, and sometimes it is hidden, like epilepsy. In the case of epilepsy, you cannot say the person will look normal until the person is met with seizure or affected by seizures. So only then you will come to know the person is epileptic in nature. So disabilities are of based on the manner of disability, we find either the visible nature of disability and hidden nature of disability. So disability is heterogeneous based on the subsequent factors: type and degree of disability, gender and sexuality, and class and caste, race and ethnicity, social, economical, political, and cultural backups. Based on all these things, the disability is seen as a heterogeneous fact. Now, let us discuss about Ashley's case. So Ashley is addressed as a pillow angel, and Kim Kyu Hall talks about this pillow angel in her an introductory chapter of feminist disability studies. So Madam Kim Kyu Hall says that how this Ashley has been given a treatment and a growth attenuation treatment when she was young. Whether there are so many arguments and debates whether it is right or wrong, and there are activists who were telling why to curtail the growth of a female child. So what they decided actually in the case of Ashley, before that, I would like to explain who's a pillow angel. A pillow angel is a girl child who is totally deformed and disabled and not able to move from her bed. She needs a caretaker or she needs a parent to look after her, to give her adequate care in all her daily day-to-day routine, and all normal behavior of a girl child cannot be seen in such children, and they cannot do their morning ablutions and all those things. They need somebody to support them and help them. So this is the situation. So they are totally pillow angels. They are fondly, the phrase has been fondly given as pillow angels to these kind of children, girl children. So now this Ashley is also found as one such pillow angel, and her parents in her case decided to give subject her for to a growth attenuation treatment. So when this deformed child is marginalized by her gender, by her disability, and economical marginalization, these three triple marginalization happens, what the parents can do. So the parents decide at this point of time, in fact, Peter Singer, who wrote in The Guardian, that is what I have extracted and I have copy pasted on my slide. He speaks for the growth attenuation treatment of Ashley. So after that, everywhere the phrase Ashley's treatment became very popular. Attenuation is curtailing, curbing the growth, or reducing the growth, or preventing the growth, or restricting the growth of the child. So when a girl child is totally deformed and you come to understand the girl child is a pillow angel, and she needs care and treatment, and she needs the support of somebody always in that stage. If the girl child keeps growing, attains puberty, what kind of a care has to be given to the girl child becomes the highest challenge, and it becomes an enormous challenge in front of the eyes of the caretaker or the parent. So here in the case of Ashley, the parents decide to subject her to into a GAT, so growth attenuation treatment. What kind of treatment was given to Ashley? Let us see now. So this is Ashley, whom you see on the slide. So Ashley at different stages, see. So now this growth attenuation treatment has become popularized, and many people subject their totally deformed children under a GAT. So that is why it started with Ashley. So we started telling her, this is Ashley at 2015. So we started using the phrase Ashley's treatment itself. So what kind of a treatment Ashley has undergone? This is the treatment that Ashley has undergone. This is stated by Ashley's father. I have taken this information from Ashley's father's blog. Ashley's treatment for the well-being of pillow angels. That's how it is titled. And what kind of medical treatment was given to Ashley to prevent her growth so that she will be a child altogether till her lifespan. So to keep her weight reduced, to keep her height and size reduced, and to keep her deprived of her sexual growth, and this kind of growth attenuation treatment is given so that the care given by the parent will not be laborious on them, and the child will also undergo a lot of trouble by attaining puberty and keeping herself fertile. So this kind of a fertile nature of the child has been actually stopped, and she has been removed of her breast buds, and she was subjected to a hysterectomy. So her fertility has been totally removed from her, and sizing for wellness. So to keep her safe and to devoid of the bed sores that she would develop in due course of time as she is always on bed. So sizing treatment was also given to her. So what you see on the screen, no? So this is the remarks on Ashley's treatment. If you read, appropriate for this is found to be appropriate for children with similar conditions of Ashley. So there were several parents after this Ashley's treatment. They started consulting Ashley's parents and how they had consulted the endocrinologist and a pediatric surgeon, and how this kind of a treatment has been given to Ashley and how it works out in their case. So there were a lot of counsels after that, and after which many people started following Ashley's treatment when in the cases of pillow angels. So this is one other story, Erica's story. So Erica's foster parents also, Erica was found with SPCD. What is this SPCD? SPCD stands for severe physical cognitive disorder. So this this girl was also another pillow angel, and Erica was given a GAT by her foster parents. So what is this GAT, and why people voice against? There are people who are activists who are voicing against GAT, and there are parents and caretakers who are supporting GAT. So let us see that. So growth attenuation treatment, the current scenario is actually the disabled girl children are infantilized. In a way, they are kept as infants themselves. So their growth is stopped at a point of time by medical treatment and medical surgeries performed on them, and some hormonal treatment also. So negative stereotypes of disabled females and sexuality as unruly and undignified and unmanageable. So they think the disabled children, the pillow angels, their sexuality itself is unruly. So there are people who are voicing against, why should it be understood as a negative? Why should it be negatively stereotyped? So the question arises there. So why it is understood or comprehended to be unruly? So shouldn't a child with a pillow angel with a deformity or a disability, shouldn't she bear her sexuality, or shouldn't she enjoy her sexual nature? So all these questions arise there, and undignified, and they think that these types of pillow angels cannot manage themselves on their own. Of course, it may be true, but at the same time, should they be totally deprived of the privilege of being born as a human being with all vitality given by God? Becomes a question there. So, disability, there are people who question this negative stereotyping. So, disability is considered a curse and for giving birth and carrying the newborn. Reason for GAT. So, why people who promote GAT? While one side, people who really they are against GAT, and there are people who are supporting GAT. It is because of the parental phobia, keeping the child to be and protecting the child. If it is a girl child and totally a pillow angel, as I said already, so protecting the pillow angel from societal discrimination, protecting her from societal antisocial elements. So all these things, the parents cannot be all the time, all 12 by 7 into 365 days. They cannot be with the child all the time. So cannot be caregiving and cannot be without giving a wink of eye. They cannot look after the child all the time. So they are also human beings. So this becomes the phobia of parents to look after the children, this kind of children. So they understand that instead of bearing the pain of making them grow or permitting them to grow to their maximum possibility or their vitality and looking after them, because they have to lift them, they have to clean them, give them a wash and everything, no? So it is not an easy joke. So it is a challenge. The day-to-day process of the caretakers or the parents, that itself is a real challenge, and they need somebody all the time behind them. So when they are 100% deformed, so parental for when they will not even know what is happening to them, and they cannot understand situations in mental retardedness or cerebral palsy. So these kind of situation, they need a complete support given by the caregivers. Challenges in disability supports to be given by parents and caretakers. So these challenges that they have to give in to these kind of deformed children becomes a biggest, it's considered to be a biggest nuisance and a conundrum. That is why there's something jarring from someone's mind, and I find it very difficult to proceed here. So if somebody could help me on that, it will be nice. Uh, so I think please unmute Mr. Tamre Selvan's song. It is really jarring to proceed.
Okay. So participants to mute phones or mobile. Hello, please, everyone.
Thank you. So now let us continue from there. United Nations Conventions on Disability, the rights of persons with disability. Article 15 clearly states of United Nations Conventions on the rights of a person with disability, clearly states, Article 15 states, no one shall be subjected without his or her free consent to medical or scientific experimentation. So Article 23 says that disabled people have their right to maintain their fertility. So while these articles promote or try to protect the disabled children, why should this kind of GAT can be performed on these disabled children becomes a point of argument. Let us further continue with what this United Nations Conventions and the rights of persons with disability have to as to say to us. So GATT makes disabled women's sexuality negative and designed to arrest a disabled child's biological development. It removes those part of a body pivotal to her sexuality. So fully developed breasts are considered to be uncomfortable and menstrual pain and pregnancy an illegitimate choice for a disabled woman. So a disabled woman, she cannot bear all these things, and why should she be treated as a woman? When she is disabled, what is the use of being a woman becomes the question there. So isn't she a woman? There is another sect who are activists who argue, isn't she a woman? Shouldn't she enjoy that feminine nature with which she is being vested with by God? So that becomes a question of another sect of people, activists who voice for her. But at the same time, the person who is really giving care and treatment and looking after these kind of children, these kind of pillow angel, they find it is actually for the benefit of the caretakers. So the activists say it is for the benefit of the caretakers, they perform this kind of GAT over these people. So it is here feminist disability studies becomes very crucial and significant point of discussion. Feminist disability studies, in fact, we can treat it as an interdisciplinary field of study because it combines the principles and methodologies of feminist studies and disability studies. So it explores and analyzes the intersection of gender, feminism, and disability, aiming to understand how these identities intersect, interact, and influence one another within social, cultural, historical, and political contexts. So, as I mentioned already about Madam Kim Kyu Hall, who authored or edited the articles, a compilation of articles under the title Feminist Disability Studies. She published it in 2011. This book came into existence in 2011. She says that this has set a milestone for feminist disability studies. Madam Kim's book was a pioneering tool for the scholars of feminist FDS. FDS stands for Feminist Disability Studies. So when I say FDS, kindly understand it as Feminist Disability Studies. This anthology actually brought together, because it's a collection of essays, as I told you already, no? So on FDS. So there are many writers, many scholars who had written about their perspectives on FDS. So this anthology brought together a collection of essays that examined the intersection of feminism and disability studies, exploring the topics such as representation, embodiment, identity, and activism, how these people are represented, what kind of embodiment is being manifested or spoken about them, and what kind of identity they gain in the society, and what are the arguments of the activists. So whether they are subjected to any kind of a medical crime, should there be an activist voice for them? So all these areas have been focused on in the articles. So here, we understand that the beginning of FDS you see in 1960s, and this is Madam Kim Q Hall, whom you see onto the bottom of here. I have pasted. Let me take a laser tool to show you. This is Madam Kim Q Hall, who has edited this book, Feminist Disability Studies. Let me move on to the next slide. So this disability scholars, what do they actually focus and concentrate? So what are the main factors they focus and concentrate? The intersections of disability and gender, including how societal constructions of femininity and masculinity intersect with the disability identities. When a male child is totally deformed, how it is treated? When a female child is totally deformed and treated as a pillow angel, what kind of a care it needs? So is there a kind of discrimination in that? Is there a kind of a change or a difference in that the care that is to be given to both disabled children? So intersections of ability. So why it is always female is being spoken, or when a female child is disabled, why GAT is being promoted, growth attenuation treatment is being promoted, becomes the question of debate. And the impact of ableism and sexism or disabled women's access to healthcare, education, employment, and other essential resources. So when a child is able, so we call it as ableism. So what kind of ableism? What percentage of ableism the deformed child possesses, and whether the disabled women's access to healthcare or education or employment or other essential resources. So percentage of disability decides that kind of a job, career, education, and all those things. Representation and media portrayals of disabled women, how they are represented. Take for example Ramayana and Mahabharata, the epics where you find mythological characters like Mantara, who is addressed as Kuni, and she gives a wrong idea or pre-feeds Kaigeyi with an idea of sending Rama to forest. So this kind of deformity getting associated with negativity is also seen in the literature and epics. And at the same time, see Saguni in Mahabharata, a deformed person, but at the same time, a disabled person shown as a villainous character and causing the entire war battle. So this kind of friction and bickering he creates, starts up with. So this kind of deformity, why should it be also associated with a kind of negative temperament or a crippled nature in the body is also making the mind crippled becomes a question. And why should they be shown like that? So this question, so representation of media portrayals of disability, how it is portraying the disability of people, the experiences of disabled women in intimate relationships. So disabled women, shouldn't she have desires, or shouldn't she be in a relationship, or shouldn't she enjoy her motherhood? So all these questions are still are challenging questions and unanswered questions. Okay, the role of disabled women in feminist activism and social justice movements. So all these things are discussed by FDS scholars. So what do these FDS scholars do actually? So for that question, FDS scholars work on these factors. So FDS scholars, suppose you are working on feminism or FDS or female disability studies. In that case, what are the areas, prominent areas where you can start your research? And I have given you that. So FDS challenges actually and broadens traditional perspectives on both gender and disability by examining how they intersect with the social categories such as race, sexuality, class, and age. FDS also aims to critique and address the ways in which systems of power and oppression impact individuals who embody multiple marginalized identities. So the key areas and focus of feminist disability studies. Okay. So representation and stereotypes, intersectionality, activism and advocacy, access and accommodation, social and cultural norms, theorizing disability, and historical perspectives. Let me explain one by one in a simple way so that to make it more comprehensive. First factor which we see is representation and stereotypes. How this FDS is shown as represented or stereotyped. So exploring how disabled individuals, especially those who identify as women or non-binary, so are portrayed in. So even the binary opposites, you speak male and female, non-binary, hope you understand what I mean. So exploring how disabled individuals, especially those who identify as women, so they identify as women or non-binary, how they are portrayed in, number one, media, literature, and popular culture, and analyzing how these portrayals reinforce or challenge the existing stereotypes, how they are shown in literature or media or popular culture. So the cultural stereotypes, the media stereotypes, the literature stereotypes, and the real-time stereotypes, the real-time living people, real-time FDS, how they contradict or intersect. So looking into that aspect, that is representation and stereotypes, how it is actually represented and what kind of stereotypes that we see in the society. Then intersectionality. So when we discuss the intersectionality, examining the experiences of disabled now. First, how they are represented, point number one. Point number two, the intersectionality is the examination of the experiences of the disabled, okay, are shaped. So what are the factors that shapes this kind of experience? So various intersecting identities like gender, race, sexuality, and class. So these are the prominent factors that decide the intersecting identities of intersectionality. So how, as I started giving my lecture, in the beginning of my lecture, I was telling how when a male child is deformed and when a male child is totally 100% disabled, how it is treated. Say, for example, we speak about Stephen Hawking, and we also speak about Susan Mendel. Susan Mendel, we are yet to see. We will discuss about Susan Mendel and her books also. How these people, when they were not actually congenital disabled, okay, but they acquire this disability in later days of life. As we speak about Stephen Hawking's motor neuron disease, right, which made him crippled down to a wheelchair till his death. Similarly, you see Susan Wendell also, and she was affected by amyottype or kind of sclerosis, right? Lateral sclerosis, ALS, they say. So she was affected by ALS. So she was also not able to, she was also totally impaired. And after that, she writes. She was a journalist, come a writer, and she was also lecturing all over. So she wrote a book. And what are the books that she had written? We will discuss later. So these people, so think about the disability of a male here on a wheelchair and a female here on a wheelchair, like Stephen Hawking and Susan Wendell. So now how these two people are accepted by society and how these two people are seen by the society, how their disability is viewed by the society. So all these things, studying all these things become part of FDS. So now I'm telling the factors that you cover under the studies or FDS studies. So first, how they are represented and stereotyped. Second, you discuss about the intersectionality, how the intersectionality works on them. And third, the activism and advocacy. In activism and advocacy, investigating the ways in which feminist disability activists and advocates work to create. So there are people like people who speak against Ashley's treatment, no? So they call themselves activists and they say, what kind of rights you have when the child, who you are to curtail the growth of a child. And when it is a female child, it is a kind of an atrocity you do to a female child when it is disabled only for the reason of being disabled. So this becomes the point of argument of the activists who are dead against the curtailment of the growth. So especially when some kind of atrocity is done to these kind of disabled children, especially female disabled children. So what the activists actually speak, and activism and advocacy, what kind of points they advocate. So what kind of arguments they advocate. So discussing on, throwing light on that and taking such literature and working on that. So that becomes part of the scholars' work on FDS. So this includes inclusive and accessible spaces, challenges of ableism and sexism, and promote societal justice or social justice and encourage equity. The fourth point and fourth factor is access and accommodation, which explores issues related to accessibility and including physical spaces, digital environments, education, and health, with a focus on how gender and disability intersectionality and context. And the fifth one, social and cultural norms. The fifth factor which we discuss is social and how society and culture project them or portray them. Analyzing how societal norms and expectations and around gender roles and disability influences, experiences, identities, and the opportunities they get in the, what kind of experience they get in the society or in what kind of identity that they could create in the society and opportunities they have in the society. Theorizing disability. So how do you theorize this disability? Developing theoretical frameworks that integrate feminist and disability perspectives, aspire to provide a more nuanced understanding of the lived experiences of disabled individuals. Lived experiences means what they have lived and seen as their whole life as an experience. So of the disabled individuals. Then seventh factor is historical perspectives. In examining the historical representations of disabled women and non-binary individuals, as well as the evolution of feminist disability movements over a period of time. Now let us discuss disability in India. The conservative estimates shows that 18.49 to 21.92 million persons suffer from some form of disability in India. So this accounts for 1.8 to 2.1 of total population. So ironically enhanced, this is said by, this is not my quotation, this is said by Renu Adlaka and Subhangi Vaidya. So they are scholars in the field of, and they have published their work on disability, FDS, female disability studies. So ironically, enhanced life expectancy has increased manifold and incidence of old age related to chronic disease induced disabilities worldwide as well. So these deformed characters, I was discussing about the deformed characters in Ramayana and Mahabharata already. So how disability is associated with the mind getting crippled also. So then, so being powerless, disabled women, how do you see them in the society? Being powerless, they are isolated and anonymous. Excuse Excuse me. So women with disabilities are extremely vulnerable to abuse and violence. In addition, help in activities of daily living like dressing and other bodily activities, they need somebody to help them. That is vulnerable abuse both at home and in institutions. 1 or 2 days they will adjust. So there is more than a parent who can serve a disabled girl child. It is even for parents, no, at a point of time, it becomes a fatigue and weariness to continuously keep the daily routines done to a child. So that is why there are nowadays parents, they are moving for cat, says one set of arguments. So one part of argument. So she will be less able to defend herself in a risky situation because this is the easiest defense they take. So such a disabled pillow angel will not be able to defend herself in a risky situation. Some pillow angels will not know the tactile feeling that they could, that an opposite gender can do on them. So they are easily subjected to, because they are deprived of certain physiological and psychological understanding. So they are easily subjected to social atrocities. So to prevent them from becoming a subject or a prey to social atrocities, parents try to perform their, they don't say that it is only for the burden of, or the it is loathsome to do or burdensome to do the day-to-day regular or to provide the day-to-day regular care to the disabled child, but also to protect the child, they say. So there are parents who argue that it is to protect the child from social atrocities because we cannot be always with them. So this also becomes a valuable argument from the side of parents. So the disabled women and society. Women with disabilities face violations of their rights at every level. So this is very practically speaking, women with disabilities, when the marginalization happens because being a woman, and marginalization happens because a woman totally economically poor, and similar to what Michel Foucault says, no? So when you are a lunatic, you are ostracized from the society, no? So like the panopticon concept of Michel Foucault. So here we come to understand that being a woman itself is a kind of marginalization. Poor woman and a deformed poor woman or a disabled poor woman, 100% a disabled poor woman is totally occurs on that kind of a sect of people, that percentage of people we find in the society. So why they are ostracized, why they are totally not considered to be part of the society becomes the question of the activists. So they are considered a financial burden and a social liability. Euthanasia is also to be promoted on some in some cases. So why this euthanasia is being promoted? Euthanasia is a kind of mercy killing. So why such? Because they become they just become a liability or social liability, as the point very well states, no? So they are denied opportunities to move outside home. They cannot know, so without the help of anybody, and getting education. They are viewed as asexual, helpless, and dependent. Their vulnerability to physical, sexual, and emotional abuse is enormous. Their aspirations for marriage, parenthood often denied, right? So the basic thing of a human being, so often denied. They grow up ensconced within the walls. They live a cloistered life, isolated, neglected, and no hope for normal life. A poignant picture of their plight is depicted in the recent Bollywood, I mean, not recent, of course. So in the Bollywood movie Black, in which social class and family compassion are only partially successful in alleviating the life of the female protagonist who has multiple disabilities. So disabled women in society, then the persons with developmental disabilities may be too trusting the others, and hence maybe easier to trick, bribe, and coerce. So Renu Adalaka and Subhangi Vaidya, again, I would like to quote them. So persons with speech and hearing difficulties mm, may have limited communication skills to report abuse. Furthermore, since disabled persons are often taught to be obedient, passive, because disabled people know. So when some caretaker is looking after them, they say, you behave like this, you cooperate with me. So they are always trained to be obedient. So in a way, they are trained to be obedient. In a way, they are trained to be passive, and their control is not in their hands. So this becomes, so they easily fall a prey or they become a victim. Now let us see about the FDS writers. So I told that feminist, we have discussed FDS so far. So we need to discuss about the FDS writers also. So there are FDS writers. So Simi Linton. So these people really pioneered, an author and a filmmaker and a disability rights activist. Linton's work explores the intersection of feminism and disability. Her book, Claiming Disability, Knowledge and Identity, is a notable contribution to the field of FDS. And see here, I was talking about Susan Mendel. She was an associate professor of women's studies at Simon Fraser University, British Columbia. She was co-editor with David Kopp of Pornography and Censorship in 1983. She published a book called The Rejected Body, Feminist Philosophical Reflections of Disability. That is the book that she authored. And she also wrote about her feelings on Until I Say Goodbye Before Death. So she was affected by amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. This is also called as Lou Gehrig's disease. So she was, when she was impaired on the chair, and she was able to move her right thumb or something similar to that of Stephen Hawking's. No, so she did not keep quiet, and she shared her perspectives in the form of a book with us. And today the book speaks a lot for the FDS. So we need what she says in the book, right? So we need a feminist theory of disability, both because 16% of women are disabled. So she says 16% of women are disabled globally, and because the oppression of disabled people is closely linked to the cultural oppression of the body. So one thing, culturally, gender politics comes into picture. Then second, being a woman and a disabled woman, she says a theory of disability is really a need of a time. So disability is not a biologically given. So biological given like gender, disability is not given. It is socially constructed. Unless you feel that you are disabled, you are not disabled. So it is socially constructed from biological reality. Biologically, the body may be deformed, how the brain works. So the body may be deformed. Stephen Hawking's body was deformed, but how he was claimed as, or acclaimed or praised by the entire world as the scientist of the world. Similarly, Susan also. So what happens? So the disability becomes is not biological reality, even though the physical damage is there, but the psychologically it becomes, why not we give an opportunity to them to think and do whatever is possible for them. So that becomes a question that she asks in the book. Culture idealizes the body and demands that we control it. Thus, although most people will be disabled at some time in their lives, and failure of control and the threat of pain, limitation, dependency, and death. If disabled people and their knowledge were, one second, fully integrated into society, and everyone's relation to his body would be liberated. So this becomes her arguments and standpoints, right? So now you see Rosemary Garland Thompson. So this Rosemary, part of Madam Kim's book comprises her article also. Rosemary Garland Thompson is a scholar in disability studies and has written extensively on the intersection of disability, gender, and identity. Her work often challenges traditional notion of beauty and normalcy. So these are her books, Extraordinary Bodies and Cultural Spectacles of the Extraordinary Body, Freakery. So these books are, this book is, the second book is edited by Rosemary Garland Thompson, and The Extraordinary Body is actually her book where she speaks for the FDS people. So now it is here you understand that Mia Mingus introduced the phrase access intimacy. So what kind of access intimacy a person has with the caretaker or the caregiver? So she was an activist and a writer, and Mingus her work centers on disability justice and intersectionality. These are some of the FDS writers we are seeing now. And Mia Mingus, you see her as a FDS writer on intersectionality, and she co-founded the Bay Area Transformative Justice Collective and has contributed to various publications. So disability justice, the phrase was actually popularized because of Mia Mingus. On October 14, 2021, Mingus was awarded Robert Cole's Call for Service Award by Philip Brooks House of Association. Now, you see Leah Lakshmi Pepna Samara Sinha. So a poet, a writer, and Pepna's work often addresses disability, race, and queerness and feminism. Her books Care, Work, Dreaming Disability, Justice, and Dirty River, a queer femme of color, dreaming her way home are noteworthy contributions to FDS. This is Jaspir K. Power, and she has been given a Kessler Award in 2019 for her writing on FDS. And this is a book, The Right to Me, Debility, Capacity, and Disability. So that is the text, Right to Me. So what you see onto your left-hand side. So Jaspir was known as for her queer literature, queer theory, and has also explored, Power has also explored the intersections of disability, race, and geopolitics. And her book, The Right to Maim, which you see on the left-hand side of the picture, it speaks about, it provokes the analysis of these issues. Now, whom you see is Alison Kaffer. So Alison Kaffer focuses on the intersections of disability and queer, and her book, Feminist Queer, Crip delves into complexities of these intersections. This is Ellen Samuels, an academic and author. She's an academician and an author, and she has written about disability, gender, and identity. And disability, she calls gender as disability, gender, and race. That is the book. Fantasies of Identification, Disability, Gender, and Race is the title of a book. And this is a significant contribution to FDS studies from her side. You see Dr. Margaret Price here, and her book is seen onto the left-hand side, Mad at School, Rhetorics of Mental Disability and Academic Life. When the disability is mental disability to 100% or 90%. So what happens here? When it is a girl child, once again, the problem is total dependency on the caretaker or the parent. So let us talk about that mental disability also. So mental disability, the children will not know, the pillow angels will not know. In that case, only the title pillow angel started existing. So such cases, they're just totally innocent of what is happening around them, what kind of growth they will get. So what kind of lifestyle others are living. So they can just watch and understand to an extent what they are seeing around them. So in that case, you cannot expect a normalcy or a normal behavior in them. So in that case, how to look after these children? So how to take up the challenge in a positive way? So these FDS people speak about the intersectionality, class, culture, their impact on these pillow angels. Dr. Margaret Price, a scholar and writer, Price's work often explores disability and rhetoric and higher education. In the field of education, when they are given education or when they opt for taking up education, so what kind of an impact they will create, how the society would react on them. So her book, Mad at School, Rhetorics of Mental Disability and Academic Life, is an important exploration of challenges faced by disabled students and in the academia. So how the disabled children and what kind of challenges they face in the academia becomes a question. So although a rights-based approach has entered into disability rights movement, the specific concerns of women with disabilities have not yet found a place neither in the government policies and the programs, nor in voluntary sector. Legislation is a key tool for social empowerment, but the existing legislation on disability is silent when it comes to the concerns of women. Ironically or expectedly, the disabled rights movement all over the world, including India, is male dominated. It may be even be blatantly sexist. Even within women's movement, women with disabilities rarely figured as distinct group in international convents until the Beijing Declaration, which was published in 1995. It's the Beijing document platform. You may refer to Google, and you may work on that and study on that if you are interested in FDS. So the FDS approach of disability, I have discussed it as we are confined, restricted to the time also. So I would like to throw glimpses on Jenny Morris, Harlan Hahn, and you can work on their standpoints. You can explore their standpoints also for these FDS, which would be useful if you're interested in working on FDS papers or FDS research. So feminists with disabilities have critiqued the traditional roles of daughters, wives, and mothers as oppressive, but these may be very roles that women with disabilities aspire to, precisely because they are denied to them. So Fine and Ash refer to this as pervasive rolelessness. A lot of women with disabilities. Nasa Beham points out the access to conventional gender roles is an issue for a disabled woman. So what you understand here is consequently the feminist struggle against oppression and institutions of marriage, family, and childcare will be different for women with disabilities. So Susan Wendel's perspectives. I have given Susan Wendel's perspectives. It is available as an ebook also. You can download from Google and you can read Susan Wendel's book. She speaks about, so I cannot discuss whatever is spoken by every FDS expert in every book. So I'm just throwing light upon what are the books written by these people, these authors. Women and disability in English movies. So let us now discuss about the movies that project FDS. My Left Foot, one example. The biographical drama tells the story of Christy Brown, an Irish artist and writer with cerebral palsy. The film focuses on his life, his relationship with his family, his remarkable achievement despite his physical challenges. Margarita with a Straw. This Indian film tells the story of a young woman with cerebral palsy who moves to New York for further education. The film explores her experiences. She navigates love, relationship, and her own identity. Me Before You, Emilia Clarke stars as a young caregiver who forms a deep connection with quadriplegic man played by Sam Claflin. The film addresses themes of love, autonomy, and assisted suicide. The Other Sister, that is there, The Black Balloon, A Quiet Place, as Cynthia. Quiet Place you would have seen. That was in Netflix also, I think. So you can if you have Netflix at home, you can watch A Quiet Place also. Quiet Place, I cannot completely call it as an FDS movie, but there it is a deformed woman who cannot speak, no? So she using American Sign Language and she tries to protect her. She is totally deaf, Regan, no? So the movie features a deaf character called Regan, and she tries to protect other people, Quiet Place, so from screaming, so that they will be under some kind of problem by the villainous characters. So Predators. So Cynthia, the horror comedy film. So this also some of you would have seen. So I have taken some of the Tamil movies also. Anjali, which existed in 1990, no? So Anjali, the father wants to look after the disabled child Anjali there, and his struggle to undergo to prove that it is a right cause, and even his own children, no, normal children, they were not able to accept such a deformed child, a disabled child in the beginning, but slowly they get connected to the child, to their sibling. Even in Sarte, you find one particular character called Aishwarya, which was Sarte, which was published in, which was, I'm sorry, not published, which was telecast, which came to silver screen in 2012. So similarly, Arohanam, you would have seen a woman who has been affected by bipolar disorder, while not the central theme of the movie, it sheds light on mental health issues. It was not central theme, but you understand the FDS aspects in the movie. So Appa by Samutrakani. So 2016, you would have come across this movie. The lead role of the father who has a daughter with a hearing impairment and how he attends to the girl. And Katrin Mori, which was and in 2018. Okay, and Peranbu, wonderful movie. I don't know how many of you had watched Peranbu. You could have seen Mammootty and Sadhana. Sadhana plays a young girl and with a cerebral palsy, and the love and care given by the father to such a disabled child is so amazing. Whether such a father could really exist in society becomes a biggest question. And because a father gives such a motherly love, more than a mother's love, I should say. So really the child is shown to have been blessed with a wonderful father in the movie. If you get an opportunity, if you have not watched the movie, try to watch the movie Peranbu if time permits, if you're interested in FDS also, FDS research also. So consolidation of my entire lecture. So feminist disability studies in academic cultural work with a sharp political edge and a vigorous critical punch to challenge our dominant assumptions about living with disability. It situates disability experiences in the context of rights and exclusions. And feminist disability studies, on the other hand, look at disability, so as a part of great variation of humankind rather than a great disaster or calamity. So you can go through the works of Michelle Fine and Adrian Ash, and to study more about, to get to know more about FDS. And Fine's introduction to Beyond Pedestals would be very useful to you to comprehend about FDS. And Pride Against see the prejudice. There is a wonderful article which I could tell. Personal Politics of Disability, which was published in 1991 by Jenny Morris, is an influential text which draws on the author's personal experience of disability and critiques. Particularly significant is the conflict within feminism between the right to abortion. Morris holds that selective abortion of disabled fetus is a form of genocide. So this point is very valid for the argument of FDS. Morris looks at the concept of masculinity and femininity and how they are applied to disabled men and disabled women. This is what I said about the intersectionality of the society. Masculinity as social construct can be very oppressive for disabled men, as it celebrates strength, performance, ability to support a family, to be masculine. Therefore, the opposite of being dependent. Cultural representations of disability also highlight the awfulness of dependence for man, and thereby making it even more demoralizing for them. So, for want of time, I quicken my consolidation. Disability forces us to acknowledge the universal need for mutual assistance and interdependence, its incorporation into human rights agenda. Feminist theories of justice, such as those articulated by Martha Nussbaum in her Frontiers of Justice, Disabilities, Nationality, Species Members, 2006 claims the disabled do not participate in the social contract of justice and speaks of interdependence and inclusiveness as the basis of justice rather than rivalry competition. So FDS seeks to amplify the voices of disabled women, challenge systematic oppression, and promote a more inclusive and equitable understanding of both feminism and disability rights. It continues to evolve as scholars, activists, and advocates to collaborate to address the complex and interconnected challenges faced by disabled individuals who navigate into intersections of gender, disability, and society. And that's it for today. If you have any questions, you can ask. Hope I'm done with my lecture. So if you have any questions, I'm ready to answer it. I don't know whether I have exceeded the time that you have given me.
Thank you, ma'am. Participants, please post your questions on the chat box. Participants, you can post your questions in the chat box. Anandalakshmi Hemalata, please unmute yourself and you can pose the question to ma'am.
I have read her question, Ananta Lakshmi.
Okay.
Will Trainer has the option of assisted suicide as he is from the privileged sector. Has any of these women writers spoken from that perspective? Okay, good. It's a nice question where Ananta Lakshmi. So of course, so there are many writers who speak about feminist justice rather than advocating one into suicide. So advocating one into suicide is also treated to be a kind of negativism by certain people who argue against it, like who are totally against GAT, I told you, know. So similarly, such people, why to advocate them? So that becomes euthanasia. I spoke in the beginning itself. So why to advocate? So when people, the activists are voicing against uh, finishing the life of a person, so this would give a lot of negative impact on advocating suicide, I think. So I did not focus on that negative perspective to bring into. Let us give them an opportunity to live in the society like us, along like us, to a normal expectancy, life expectancy level. We don't know how long they could live with a lot of disability. If, say, for example, if they have 90% mental retardedness and they need always, they depend on somebody, such a pillow angel, how long she's going to live? Let her live. So that kind of an advantage given to her with a humanistic perspective. So in fact, I did not explore into the whether to permit euthanasia, in fact. So why not they live? Why not? Why to advocate? So suicide becomes a question for me. Why to advocate suicide? That becomes a question for me. Okay. Everyone has rights to live in this world. I'll check whether there are any more questions in the chat box. Since you mentioned me before you, I feel like I need to ask this question. Okay, good. Thank you, Ananta Lakshmi. You made me think on the other side also.
There is another question. How FTS is approached or looked at in India?
That's why I quoted many movies, sir. In Indian movies, Mammootty's movie Beranboy itself is a good pioneering voice. No, so there is a person to tell that why not we look care of such an person, disabled child. So through the character Mammootty, we come to see. So in India, um, there are people with a lot of disability, of course, similar to that is why I mentioned 16% of the world population. No? So that is, you find female children with disabilities. So when you say this, within the 16 percentage, for sure, the dimension of India will also fall into picture. So in that case, how well we take care, sometimes no in Indian, because of the stereotypical, it is taken as a curse by the maybe the people who are not well educated, or they don't take care of such children. Many people go for infanticide, as I was mentioning it towards the end. So it is considered to be genocide, says the writer. So why to understand that a child is developing in the womb itself with disability and curtail the birth of the child by an abortion? So this becomes a practice nowadays. A medical abortion has become a practice nowadays. So in India also, India is not an exception. So many people, I myself come across to hear about such medical abortions when they come to see the maybe the limbs are not well developed, or there is some kind of deformity in the child. So no parent is willing to take a deformed child. That is always there. So the parents always love a child which is normally born with all kind of vitality. So in that case, India has to learn a lot. We have to educate many people in India to look at the positive side of these disabled people also. Let us give them an opportunity to live like us in the society. In government colleges, to an extent, there are children who are accepted with a disability, and they are treated on par with normal children, the children who are really well, who enjoy their fullest health. Along with them, these children, no, they take care of these special children. Sometimes such children also come for admission there, and we treat them very well, and they are very happy to pick up lessons. Maybe the pace of picking up lessons will be very they need to focus on that. Of course, they may not be on par with the normal children, but at the same time, the care that is given to them, no, that with the help of scribes only they will be writing. But they enjoy that education. They try to answer in classes. All those things will definitely melt the mind and the heart of the teacher when she teaches in the class. So, along with the other students, these children are also there, even in my class, sir. Yeah.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
Useful section for me.
I couldn't hear you properly.
This
Hello.
Hello, ma'am.
Yeah.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
Very useful session for me.
Oh, thank you.
I'm a research scholar from Sree Saraswathi Thyagaraja College, and my topic is under the research. I'm doing my topic disability studies, and
Good.
it is very useful to me. And I'm doing very generally the disability studies, and generally I'm doing, but this is very useful to me. The feminism about the female disabled, how they are struggling, how they are overcoming, and you showed me a lot of movies, and you have shared a lot of books. It's very useful to me. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Your name?
Jaishma, ma'am. Jaishma.
Jaisma. Thank you, Jaisma, for your compliment.
Yes, ma'am. I have a few questions, ma'am.
Yeah, please.
The first question is, do we have a other specific disability studies like female disability studies, ma'am?
Good question. So we say disability studies only, generally, generalized, where we speak about the disability of men and women. But female disability studies becomes a special focus mainly because the care to be given because of the social responsibility of female is considered to be more, in fact. I'm not saying men are doing a less part. Of course, they could. It is there is a proper equilibrium between these two genders. Of At the same time, when a female child and that too it is disabled, it becomes a mother, right? Accidentally or eventually or because of some antisocial activity performed on it. So in that case, how the child, the body is grown, but mentally the psyche is not grown to the fullest level. So understanding what she has to do for herself is a challenge. In addition to that, how to groom the child, how to nurture the child, how to feed the child, how to grow the child becomes the heights of total impediment for the disabled below age. So that is the reason the focus is more on female disability studies. This problem cannot crop up in a man's life. You understand? So that is why there is no male disability studies separately. So we say female disability studies.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Feminist disability studies. Yes.
Yes, ma'am. One more question.
Please.
Can we connect a disability studies with the DID or multi-personality disorder?
Disability studies, certainly it can be integrated with any psychological problem, because disability in a way impacts over the psyche of a person also. So certainly.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Ma'am, one more question to you. I'm
Yeah.
Mrs. Banu Pritika M, working as an assistant professor again
Yes, ma'am.
Sree Saraswathi Thyagaraja College. I'm a part-time scholar working under Dr. Subhashini, ma'am.
Okay.
I have a question, ma'am. You spoke about mercy killing. Is it
Euthanasia, yeah.
is it for both the genders or?
So it is for both the genders, and the maximum euthanasia performances, if you, it is advocated over female bodies only, comparatively, statistically speaking, compared to male physically deformed bodies. You treat them as male deformed body and a female deformed body, which is subjected to more number of euthanasia is only female. That is why we speak about FDs today.
Okay. Thank you.
Do we have any questions?
Ma'am, another person in the forum has asked a question.
Yes, Professor. Yes, Professor.
It is Nancy Ann.
Professor, I couldn't hear you properly. There is some kind of noise also that comes along with your voice. Could you make it clear?
Is it any better now, ma'am? Hello.
Professor, I understand you're speaking, but the clarity of speech, there is some jarring noise comes along with your voice.
Is it better now? Hello. There is another question by Nancy Ann.
Yes, sir. Now I understand, Ansi.
Yeah, she asks, do you think tripartite jeopardy affects only in a feminist disability study?
Yes.
Tripartite jeopardy. Could you please explain what is this tripartite jeopardy now?
In fact, both of us spoke on that, Professor. In fact, in the beginning of the preamble note, you also spoke about it in the beginning. This tripartite is actually being marginalized for being a woman. So this can be spoken only for a woman and not for a man. So secondly, being poor. So if you're totally poor, an Indian child, poor Indian child, also deformed or disabled totally, and how she will be treated being a woman. Okay, another thing is disability itself is a kind of marginalization. So that is why we call it as a tripartite marginalization.
Oh, thank you, ma'am. Let's wait for more questions to talk. Yeah, one second, ma'am. The students in the auditorium here, she has a question. I'll pass the mic to him. Hello, ma'am.
May I audible, ma'am? Hello.
Hello, yeah, come on.
Am I audible, ma'am?
Yeah, you are audible.
Good morning, ma'am. Okay,
Good morning.
nice. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay.
Information from you. My question is there any other treatment to treat feminist disability children to feel better like that? Any other treatment?
The GAT is done for exclusively for female children only, so that they will not become pregnant and they cannot feel their sex actually. So that is why it has been performed, and to make them, lessen the burden of the caretaker or the parent while lifting them. They will not be too heavy, and they will be like children only, infanticizing them. If at all that word has been already coined, infanticizing. So they are infantilized actually. So similar treatments, euthanasia is done to curtail their total life, and I don't think any more treatment is promoted or advocated on them. Even for GAT itself, there are a lot of voicing by the activists, FDS activists. So if you see that FDS activists may not permit such kind of treatments over a female body when only for the reason of being disabled.
That's another one question. Yeah. I personally feel that it's against nature that taking their female organs and taking their sexuality. What is your opinion about that?
Could you come again with your question? What? There's some problem in your audio actually.
Ma'am, at my point of view, it is against nature that taking their sexuality by treating them by cats. What is your opinion about that?
Your point of view, what is your point of view? You said your point of view, something is your point of view. Tell me.
It's against the nature that's taking a person's sexuality.
Against the nature of the persons. Yeah, everybody, FTA scholars say the same, no? That is what I was telling. So FTA scholars speak for these people. So it is against nature only. So curtailing a person's growth is totally against nature. Whether the child is disabled or normal, that doesn't matter. So totally curbing the growth of the child is not justice. That is why people, activists are against it.
Thank you.
Good morning, ma'am.
Huh?
This is Abhinaya from Department of English, and I'm the ward of Dr. Subhashini.
Good.
I have a question, ma'am. So when we were working in GVG College, we had a student, and she was physically disabled, and she continued her PG in Chennai. When she went there, she came across a lot of abuse, sexual abuses, and she said that she is going to stop her studies. So such a motivating kid stopping her studies or stopping her development because of the society is unbearable, and what sort of solution can be given to such problems?
Society has to be educated actually. Society can be educated only through people like us who study literature. So society can be educated only through media people who take movies like Bear and Bow. You understand me? So society can be educated only through literature and media. So that is why in Marxism, Marx gives the prime in the far layer when he segregates as what is that? A superstructure and a base. He places literature in the superstructure. Why does he place literature in the superstructure? It is because through literature you can target the ideologies of common man. So every common man's ideologies can be changed only with the help of literature and dramas, poems, and all those things. Those days, freedom fighters, how did they fight? They promoted their ideas through dramas, right? Street dramas. So how literature is the prime tool, media is the prime tool through which you can educate the society today. I did not say this. Marx himself said this already by classifying literature in the superstructure.
Ma'am, do you have any association for disability people?
There are many. There are many in US.
It's unknown to people, to disability people itself. It is unknown. We are not educating them regarding the association or the government sectors which are helping them.
No, it is not so. Don't say so. So maybe we are not aware of such associations does not mean that there are no such associations and they are not educated. Even people who are with disability, they would come to understand through certain sources. They will try to explore and they will come to understand what are the associations that speak for them. So there are people, even illiterate people, uneducated, they are able to find out such right organizations and associations. So you need not say so, but in US and Europe, the entire Europe, not today, there are so many people who are going for these kinds of medical treatment in the case of disability, and there are activists who are voicing against, no? So they have their own associations running to take care of such disabled children. So that is also there. Even that Erica's case, which I showed in the slide, no? So the parents are foster parents only, not real parents. So such children, they are totally deprived. If I told you, no, so they are poor. So they don't have anybody. They don't have anybody means they don't have money. So they are poor. You understand me? So they are ostracized from the entire society. So there should be somebody to take care of, play the role of a parent or play the role of a caretaker. So that has to be there.
Thank you, ma'am. I have two questions.
Yes, sir.
Now, suddenly, I'm reminded of Avayar's one song. அரிது அரிது மானிடராய் பிறத்தல் அரிது மானிடராய் பிறந்த காலையின் பூன் புருடு செவிடு பேடு நீங்கி பிறத்தல் அரிது. இந்த இடத்துல அது ஒரு ஔவையார் திருப்பி அடுத்தது நல்ல விஷயம் சொல்லுவாங்க. ஞானம் அப்படிம்பாங்க, கல்விம்பாங்க, அப்புறம் தானம் அப்படிம்பாங்க, வானத்துக்கு போகணும் அப்படிம்பாங்க. அப்போ இதை ஒரு லேடர் ஸ்ட்ரக்சரா வைக்கும்போது இந்த இடத்துல இதையும் நம்ம பாட்டா பாடிட்டு இருந்தோம்னு வச்சுக்கோங்களேன், அரிது அரிது. அப்போ இந்த இடத்துல நீங்க எப்படி பாக்குறீங்க இந்த டிசபிலிட்டி ஸ்டடிஸ்?
Wonderful question. Feministic, research should be pursued on poem itself, sir. So actually, taking birth as a human being itself is something very great. That is adored. Number one. Number two, without being born with any kind of disability or a deformity, that is the additional boon given to a man. So here the gender does not come into picture, but only the birth of being a human being that comes into picture. So point number one. So being born as a human being and taking birth without any kind of deformity, that is being glorified by OYR. Let us discuss like that. In that case, now the part of feminism, when we argue as a, if you want me to argue as a feminist, I should say that why not being born with a deformity? What is wrong? It is not a choice of the child. So it is designed and assigned. When a child is born like that, what is wrong in being in taking birth with a disability? It is not the choice of the child. So why should the child be treated or victimized? So it is not the child's problem. So the child is totally innocent. So why you always glorify something which is 100% correct? And when something is not 100% correct, everything cannot be correct and perfect in this. Perfection is actually an evolution. Perfection is not it cannot be idealized. So perfection is an evolution. It's a progress. It's a growth. So why not a child be given this is a very big world, very big universe. Why the heart is so small to prevent or to glorify only those who are born without a deformity is my question, sir. Rhetorically.
I know, ma'am. In fact, suddenly aware came to my mind. I think
Yes.
we can't. Okay. I request the students to.
There are arguments that whether Avayar is a single woman or it has been written by many women, and whether there were many Avayars in different periods of time. So there are arguments and Tamil research also going on like that, sir.
I would say aware. The name aware is only a.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a.
We textbooks and Tamil textbooks, state books, and all these things project Avayar as a single woman. But there have been discussions like this also, which I have come across with Tamil scholars.
I would consider aware as just a proper noun marker.
Ah, yes, I understand.
Beyond that, the text is important to us.
In those days, probably Avayar would have said it because including this modern era that we are finding such a lot of impediment and challenges for a disabled woman to grow. So probably the societal impact would have made Avayar to write like that. So without that, a disabled person, survival of the disabled person would have become 100% challenging thing by that time. There would not have been they would not have received support, adequate support also. So might be that condition.
Yes, ma'am. Notice one word in your answer to the previous question. That was the child, when it comes to this world, it doesn't have a choice. It is not the child's choice to come as a disabled or able. It happens. So it's a biological, it's a biological impediment. Continent, different births. If you are having such type of disability, it's your problem that is actually getting carried. So what's your opinion on that? If we take that theory, then we will have we accept disability as something. Whatever we have done in the previous term, I think that also has to go away with that. What do you think about this? The karma theory or the rebirth theory, the pava punya and everything like that? Ma'am, can you hear me?
Yeah, sir, but could not fully comprehend what you have spoken because most of the time the voice and audio I get is really off.
Okay, ma'am, I'll just repeat it shortly. See, in Indian context, what we see is being disabled at one birth is a punishment of the pavam what we did, sin what we did in the
Karma. Yes.
yeah, that will give a unruly license for the other people to consider disabled as something as a punishment, which is actually very very wrong. So, what do you think about that?
I'm an iconoclast in that, sir. I don't believe that. So what has karma to do there? People say so. So
Yeah,
doesn't
yeah. In
you
fact,
ask me?
yeah. In fact, I want to record here. That is very dangerous because when you see a disabled person, you should have the compassion to help. You should not think that as a punishment. Dear students, you should keep that in mind. Thanks, ma'am. And there is one more question from our faculty here.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
This is me, Sree, Assistant Professor, Department of English.
Yes.
I have a question. Do you recommend euthanasia?
Definitely not.
But certain can be found out in the pregnancy itself.
Yeah, that is what I was talking. I was telling how activists go against that feticide, no? So after understanding it is a deformed fetus, so going for a medical abortion is considered to be a genocide. So there are many people feticides that would have happened like this. So if you see, one of the FTS scholars as mentions that the kind of feticide as a genocide itself. I made a mention of that in my talk.
Thank you. Here is another question by our student Swati.
Hmm.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
It was very useful to us. I have a question. Can we relate this with the transgender?
Queer literature and transgender and binary opposites are also spoken in my entire lecture, if you have been listening. Yes, they also undergo this. And one of the writers whom I have shown, no, 2, 3 writers whom I have shown are non-binaries.
Ma'am, thank you very much, ma'am. It was a wonderful session. You have given a wonderful reference, so many books, so many journals, and also so many movies to our scholars. So it is an eye opener for us. So thank you very much, ma'am. Now, I would like to call upon Ms. D. Srija, ma'am, Assistant Professor, Department of English, to deliver a vote of It is a proud and grateful moment for me to express my heartfelt thanks to all those who made this event possible. I would like to start by thanking our management who have been supportive of our initiatives and encourage us to strive for excellence. Saying a thank you would be less for our today's resource person, Dr. P. Malidi ma'am. Her talk not only gave us knowledge about feminist disability studies, but also taught us deep insight into this property study. Thank you a lot. Next, I would like to thank our Vice Principal and Head, Department of English, Dr. V. Selvin sir, who played the role of a backbone to us and helped in the organization of this talk. Today, almost 375 participants were there from different colleges and universities upon invitation. This made this national online lecture series a grand success thanks to all participants. Next, I would like to thank Dr. M. Subhashini, Associate Professor of English, convener of this online lecture series, who organized the whole event and enabled us to learn many things in feminist studies. Thanks a lot for this initiative. A special thanks to all our professors who took the responsibility of this national online expert lecture series to be a success. I would like to take time in thanking our dear students for their active participation. Thank you all. Special thanks to our technical supporters. Thank you again to all the respected resource person, our HODs, teachers, participants, students, and technical supporters. It was because of everyone's hard work that this event was possible, and expecting the same in the continuous process of this National Online Expert Lecture Series. Thank you so much to all.
Ma'am, shall I leave?
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for your lecture series. It was a wonderful day today for us with your speech. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, ma'am, I'm leaving. Thanks to everyone.
Thank you, ma'am. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Professor.
Okay, you may log off now, ma'am.
Okay, sir. Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you all.